Hello and welcome back to Tinker Talks Guns. Today we are here to once again talk about the CZP-01. We're also here to talk about the CZP-07. These are neither of them what you'd call old guns, but they're not bleeding edge new either. What they are very similar guns designed for the same job by the same company. So let's dive in and have a look at what they share in common and what they don't, and we'll start that on the tabletop. Okay, these guns are both roughly the same size, little over 7 inches long, about 5 inches high, and they are as such direct rivals to the Glock 19, except they're not striker fired. Now, looking at it, you'll see that the P-01 obviously has a metal frame, meaning it's probably heavier than the P-07. And yes, it is. It is 0.4 ounces heavier, which is really not significant. I mean, that's less than the difference between choosing 124 grain over 115 grain ammo. So it's not really a factor. They have comparable sights, both with 3-dot sights. This had even more similar sights from the factory, but Leah, whom I procured this from, had installed tritium night sights, which is an arguably useful addition. And they really do have a lot in common. They actually have the same Omega double action trigger, and both guns have benefited from Cajun Gunworks spring kits. The controls are the same location. Both guns share the same manual of arms. Again, the P-01 is blockier and bulkier, but they both feature front serrations and rear serrations, and they're both pretty much equally useful, even though these are larger and more distinct than on the CZP-01. So these are bigger, these are sharper, and these are slightly concave, which is, I find, really nice. So it balances out. It's unload and show clear. Magazine's empty. Nothing in the chamber. Magazine empty. Nothing in the chamber. Now, both guns can be outfitted with a decocker. I have changed this one over to single action operation because reasons. The grips of both are pretty well textured, pretty comfortable. The grips on this have been replaced from the factory rubber grips, or neoprene actually, and are checkered G10. And they also are really nice. Magazine releases are in the same location. I don't know if they're reversible or not, because I'm an idiot. So really very, very similar guns. Both have a stock 15-round magazine capacity. You know, there's not much to choose between them in that respect. This gun does have the Cajun Gunworks aftermarket hammer, which makes the trigger just a little nicer. Double action. Double action on both guns is smooth and comparable. And P-01's a little smoother. It is noticeably better, but again, neither of them is bad. And again, the single action triggers, oh, that's nice. Reset. Really nice. This also has the short reset kit, so it's reset is it's not quite as good. As far as texture goes, the P07 has a feature I like very much, which is this textured area here for your thumb when you're doing a thumb forward grip. And I really would like a more protrusive safety, because on single actions I like to ride the safety. I may have to convert this back to a hammer drop. I'm undecided. So some advantages there. Some advantages here too. Now, they're both comfortable grips. And they're both good and offer good traction. I really wouldn't mind some extra traction here, but you know, you can tape that and get it. There's not really enough material here to stipple it safely. It's very, very thin here. So, one area where they differ is in the magazines. They are, for some reason, not interchangeable. Yes, the P01 magazine fits, but I don't know that it would cycle. The P07 very much does not fit in the P01. And I don't know why they did that, and I find it irksome as hell since I own both guns. The blockier slide may mean more reciprocating weight on the P07, because as you can see, the slide on the P01 is more svelte. And in rapid fire, I noticed it was easier to get tighter groups with the P01, probably in part because of that lighter reciprocating mass. But it wasn't enough to be a deal breaker. The P07 is still excellent and works extremely well. Both guns, I should mention, function flawlessly with factory ammunition. But the Cajun Gunworks light hammer spring in the P07 is not up to the job of the reliably igniting my very, very hard Eastern European primers that I've had to resort to because shortages. So I'm going to be putting, both guns function flawlessly with factory ammunition. Okay, so that's not a knock against this gun or even against the Cajun Gunworks spring, but I am going to put the heavier spring back in it because the absolute qualification for any carry gun is it has to work. Everything else is gravy. It has to work. Now, I did mention the slide on the P01 is more svelte, and this is potentially an advantage to the P07 because it's the full width of the frame, and that makes it just a little easier to grab in a hurry if you need to manipulate the gun. This might be more of an advantage for some people than others. Myself, it's not really critical in any sense of the word. Oh, and both guns do have ambidextrous decocker and safety, and they both take apart basically the same. To dismantle either gun, you line up these two marks on the back of the slide and pop this out. And I'm not going to because there's endless videos where people field strip these things for you. We're more concerned with how they compare to each other. Now, I prefer the more rounded grip, and people with smaller hands might well also, because it's just a little nicer. And I have to say, the more rounded, almost organic shape of the back of this grip might lend itself better to concealment under a light cover garment. But again, it's a small thing. And, your mileage may vary. So really, two guns designed for the same job. Both very, very good at that job. And really, especially if you're going with the Cajun Gunworks trigger upgrades, there's not a lot to choose between them. It's sort of like, if this is a Toyota makes excellent cars. And they do their job very, very well indeed. By comparison, this would be a Lexus. It's got the same underpinnings as the Toyota. Very, very good indeed. It's just got a bit more refinement and attention. I should note that both of these guns are developments of the famous CZ75, which for a good several decades was considered the finest combat handgun in the world, and its descendants do it justice. The P01 was actually submitted for and qualified for NATO certification. I have no doubt the P07 would too, and for all I know it may have been. I just heard it mentioned about the P01. That's a ridiculously rigorous standard. Quite deliberately. Pistols are not very important in the military. But when they matter, they really, really matter. So, not that different from civilian life. And these are both, and I want to say this, these are both excellent guns. I like both of these guns a lot. They are excellent guns. They're flawlessly reliable with factory and defensive ammunition. They're just, they tick all the boxes for me. They are perfect for the mission, which is the same as the Glock 19, which is a compromise between ultra-high concealment and a duty-sized gun with full-size gun performance. So there's a reason the Glock 19 and guns of similar size are so very, very popular. Take that for what it's worth. Which do I prefer? I prefer the CZ-P01. This is not altogether surprising. So, there's one more difference we need to talk about between these two guns. I checked this morning, and P07s, brand new, are running $500 to $550. P01s are running $700 to $750. It's $200 difference, and for a lot of us, that's not insignificant. If budget was an issue, I'd be happy with the P07. If budget wasn't an issue, I'd go for the P01 every time. It's $200 better. Is it a better gun overall? For values of better, yes. It feels better in my hand. It just handles better in general. And the trigger is just a little better than even a comparably modified P07. But again, they're both excellent guns. That's the good news, is if you're down to a choice between these two, it's a tragedy of limited scope, because you literally can't lose. They're both fantastic guns. They both work exceptionally well. They're exemplars of the breed. And, but yeah, I like to get a little better. I also can't help but feel, I don't have a lot of experience with this yet, but I think the more rounded overall contours will give it a little bit less of a tendency to print under light cover garments, and it being summertime, that's a thing. So, if you liked the video, if this was useful to you, please hit like and subscribe. It really helps the channel, and it's very, very easy and low effort, and it costs nothing. If you're looking for an option that does cost something, you could consider supporting me on Patreon, which helps a great deal, and in fact purchased a gun that I will be featuring on this channel shortly. Anyway, I hope this finds you well. Stay safe, take care, and we'll talk to you again real soon.